Are you ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have y'all. Shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. I always appreciate it. And it's so good to see you guys in here. Y'all, please go follow us on all of our social media platforms if you're not already. You can find us at Spaced Out Radio, and also on Instagram. I believe it's Spaced Out Radio Show. Okay. Also, if you'd like to support Spaced Out Radio, we do have a merch shop. Okay. If you guys want some cool Spaced Out Radio gear, visit our website. That's spacedoutradio.com. Go to the shop, and I don't really have a shop. I guess there's a shop link. There's got to be, right? So I'll go get some merch over there. And also you can join our Space Travelers Club. That is over on Patreon. All right. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com. And I also have a YouTube channel called The Cryptid Huntress, where I do live shows all throughout the week. So please join me over there. I also have a Patreon and a Etsy shop called War Woman Goods. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I really appreciate it. All right, well, we have a fantastic guest here tonight. We have a great show lined up, and I have Brian Tseng here from the Full Disclosure Now movement. And we're going to get into some interesting conversations in regards to the secret space program and Dogman. Oh my gosh, you guys are in for a treat tonight. Don't forget that right after this show, Rob G has a really great program set up for us over on After Hours. So y'all please go and hang out there after we get done. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to our show tonight. Brian Tseng heads up the Disclosure Now movement. One notable thing about him is his father, Jack Tseng, was the founder and CEO of Tseng Labs. Brian earned a biochemistry degree from Occidental College in Southern California and then volunteer organized for 8 years full time. He now lives in Northern Nevada and is a prepper in developing an RV park and travel lodge, which will eventually incorporate a healing center. He is the host of the upcoming Full Disclosure Now conference in St. Pete, Florida, July 15th through the 18th. You guys can find more information on that at fulldisclosuremovement.org online. Please get your tickets, and I even have a discount code because I am one of the speakers there. So y'all be sure to use that discount code. I'll put it up on the screen before the show's over tonight. Please help me welcome to the show my good friend, Brian Tseng. Hey, Brian.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me tonight. It's great to be here.
Well, of course. I love hanging out with you and talking to you, Brian. We always have a good conversation, have a lot to talk about. So how have you been?
I've been great. It was really awesome to see you at the Spaced Out Radio gathering in Reno a couple months ago. That was really fun, getting to see the SOR crew there live and in person. One thing I really love about Spaced Out Radio is that the crowd here comes for the woo. They don't eye roll the guests so much, and even going to the UFO conferences and speaking to some people about the 20 and back programs and time travel, who the actual ETs are and what their agendas are, and you get the eye roll. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. If we're here at a conference amongst our peers and we're getting eye rolled, then what's it like to be out there in general normie society? And of course, the woo is strong with Spaced Out Radio. So here we are.
Oh, yeah. No, we had a blast out there in Reno, Nevada, and you even brought Winnie, the Wonder Dog, with you. So I think she stole the show for most of the time that we were there together. But that was
she's
fun.
Here. She's here, good. Of course, roaming, lurking the premises. She's on Dogman and Werewolf lookout guard duty, and then she's here to be friendly to the Sasquatch, of course. Hey, look! Oh, we know who Unveiling Addiction is. How you doing? A certain C gal. How you doing?
Hey, Chastity.
Awesome.
Hey, so
Chastity.
yeah, absolutely. No, we have a great chat tonight. We always have a great chat over here, and yes, we do ride the woo train over here at Spaced Out Radio. So yeah, we're all on board with that, and I can't wait to come down to your conference too. We've got a big old conference. I did speak at the World UFO conference yesterday. I was there here. It was the World UFO Conference in North Georgia. So we had a huge turnout for that. I mean, the room was packed wall to wall with people when I was giving my presentation. And there is a definite interest in disclosure right now, big time. I mean, some people, it was their first UFO conference ever. They said that they never thought that they would ever be at a conference like that in a million years. But there they were, because they believed they had seen UFOs. And they were also just into the woo like we are. Okay, so big
Let's
crowd.
let's explore that woo right there, the woo
Yeah.
bomb you just dropped, and talk about the Georgia Bigfooter audience and friends coming from all over, I'm sure. It seems like there's been a huge evolution in the Bigfoot community from the Gimli Patterson photo and the Bigfoot prints to more, I consider it more the modern era where we've got the Bigfoot researchers. Hey, Carolyn, um, talking about how you've got a inner relationship between Bigfoot and UFOs. And then you've got contactees such as Sue Walker out of New Mexico. She's a contactee of a Star Nations people known as the Ponti. Apparently, they're like a gray nation, grays, but they have they have emotions, kind of like maybe the movie Paul. I understand they depict the Asgard Gray, but the Ponti might be similar, and they speak about Bigfoot likewise being a Star Nations people, and they're also interdimensional. Like I think Marcy was mentioning, we have the ability to go interdimensional ultimately. Yeah, St. Pete in the house. Oh wow, great! And that's St. Pete is where we're going to be having our not so shameless plug, our 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference in 2 weeks. Yay! Um,
Oh yeah.
but but that evolution now then would connect the Bigfoot community to the UFO community to now the disclosure community, where it's all together. Not that they weren't always already interrelated, but they more so today now than ever before. And I think that's where you're going to get people commenting, "Oh my gosh, oh, and Beyond the Box is here." Great. They got some shows
And
coming up Fridays and Saturdays. With Mario Mahares, who's also going to be he's going to be a guest on Beyond the Box coming up, and he's going to be a presenter at our conference as well. So we have a really tight knit community here, Jessica.
we do. And ever since I went public with my research, I have absolutely been bridging together the communities just on my own when I talk about the stuff that happens to us out in the field, because I started off as a Bigfoot field researcher, immediately started having UFO experiences, had contacts with extraterrestrials, and we're coming across other cryptids out in the field looking for Bigfoot. So of course, here I am. I'm actually going this week on a Dogman hunt. Okay, and so I have a lot. I've been really busy, by the way, but there is a natural solidification kind of, or a coming together of a lot of these communities, even the secret space program, because when I'm doing my remote viewing targets, I was inadvertently coming across secret space program data. Okay, so I guess, yeah, the Cryptid Hunters channel is the epitome of bringing a bunch of communities together. Okay, and Spaced Out Radio too, of course. But they are
Absolutely.
naturally all related. They're connected.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that both Christy Campbell, not to be confused with Chastity Campbell, and not to be confused with Chastity Munoz, of course, but
Of course.
but basically, um, both Christy Campbell and Arkeem Ra testify to being in these secret space programs. Arkeem in particular with the Montauk Project as well, and both of them have run many times, or back in the past, they ran into George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, and the people in the programs who are basically a lot of these people are abducted as kids and raised and MK Ultra mind controlled in these programs. They were told to call George H.W. father, and they were told to call the Queen of England, who passed away supposedly recently, but probably passed away in reality like 4 years ago or something like that. They were supposed to call her mother. And I've heard this testimony now from a bunch of different people who have testified to surviving and experiencing the secret space programs. Wow,
Wow.
Richard Minnick. Are you a relationship to Brian Minnick?
Yeah,
Interesting. And
interesting. Yeah,
Montauk is strange.
yeah. I just
Interesting.
saw you on their show. Or you? Wait, they came on your show with you and Arkeem, Brian and Long Island
Yeah.
Bigfoot. I watched
Yes.
that. Was that last night? Yeah, you guys
A couple
were
days ago.
chopping it up.
Yeah, they just released it. Yes, yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, it was last night because I just got home from my UFO conference that I was speaking at, and I had to go straight into my show last night that I had on my channel. So I didn't get a chance to tune in long, but I did watch a little bit of that when it aired. So it was really exciting to see everybody coming together,
Yeah,
and you know, and that was from the Montauk trip that we took this past year.
we're doing a full court press in the 2 weeks now leading up to the conference where Woo Riders, disc golf, is that with DG or dog stands with the DG? He'll be there next month in St. Pete
Derek.
getting his tan on.
Uh-huh.
Yes, excellent. So I'm really excited. This is a first of many. And bringing together the remote viewer community, that's kind of X factor, one of the X factors that you've got, Jessica. Not only are you a Bigfoot researcher, doing in the field research with some of the insiders and whistleblowers and people in the know, stepping forward or remaining behind the scenes and feeding you great information. You also are doing remote viewing on a blind remote viewing basis. Let's see, Maeve O'Brien, mainstream or legacy science is what the Roman Catholic Church was 1,000 years ago. Yes, well, these institutions they're going to be undone because the whole ET thing really exposes a lot of the the twisting of the truth that many of these institutions are guilty of, not to mention the covering up of hurting little people. But I don't want to go too much more into that lest we veer into the banhammer censorship algorithm territory.
Yeah, we don't want that, especially not on Spaced Out Radio for sure. I know. But yeah, there's a lot of disclosure going on right now though, Brian, and I think that is a beautiful thing when the communities are coming together. Brian Montauk of Montauk is Strange, who we're referring to, he just he just released a book that he's been working on for many years, and he has done total boots on the ground field research on the property of Camp Hero where the Montauk project took place. And he knows all the ins and outs of every tunnel down there. And I mean, building the radar towers, just the programs. He knew people personally, firsthand, that worked there. And so it's wonderful bringing him basically he's like an urban explorer with a ton of research behind him. Okay, and a lot of inside knowledge, with a Bigfoot researcher with Long Island Bigfoot, and we brought a bunch of, or I met you guys up there with a bunch of the Montauk survivors, and just a lot of people came together, secret space program people, and yeah, I'm not going to say that's a triple threat to whoever they are, that them, the people who want to keep all this secret and not let this stuff out. But yeah, it was pretty powerful, I think, when we do come together.
Well, yeah, Brian's book, Montauk is Strange, it's on bookbaby.com. And if you want to get a hard copy, kind of like me, I'm more old school. I want the hard copy over the Kindle versions. And you're talking about being a triple threat. Well, we're getting together the Montauk survivors, with secret space program survivors, with remote viewers, and Bigfooters, and as all big, really different aspects of. I like to call it the disclosure movement. Some people like to call it the exposure movement. I'll give that to Professor Robert Bauer. But that always gives me nightmares of someone in a trench coat, like jumping out in the street and like flashing everyone the full exposure now movement. Like, no, 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 we're disclosure, but I guess you can go with exposure.
That
I'm
does,
gonna tell you why
that sounds dirty.
and
Sounds dirty.
and and but as far as the disclosure movement is going, from what I hear, all in the chatter, if you will, if the gray hats or white hats or whatever you want to call them, don't get their act together and expose the reality of ETs and humanity and our long history together interacting behind the scenes, then some of them, the benevolent factions, may do it for us. They might unveil what's behind the curtain by 2028 or so.
Well, there's a timestamp on that then, huh? A projected time limit, kind of. They're like, if you don't do it by, in 4 years, we're going to do it. That would be pretty cool, actually. We've been getting a whole lot of interesting disclosure lately, where I don't know if it's real disclosure or not, or if it's almost like people are waiting, sitting on the edge of their seats, waiting for that fake alien invasion that we keep hearing about. And we're getting things like the Miami Mall aliens, for instance. Okay, I talked about that at my presentation yesterday at the World UFO Conference, and I did let the audience know that that was one of my blind remote viewing targets, and I was seeing holograms. Okay, for whatever that was, it was holographic, it was holograms. And I felt like it was staged or something, whatever happened. And so we're not only exposed, people are thinking, they think disclosure, they think aliens, UFOs. Well, we're exposing the fake disclosure too, right? Does that make sense? It's kind of like
Okay,
there's a movement to disclose things, but it's controlled. Okay, and so we're exposing that too.
well, let's unpack that, because
Okay.
I think that the Miami Mall aliens, they might very well have been holograms, but not necessarily bad guys trying to do a magic trick and fool people. It might have been the good guys using holographic technology, because a lot of them apparently do, just in general, for their explorations. So
Mhm.
it's like a lot safer, right, to have a quantum holographic avatar rather than get attacked by the locals in the Miami Mall. Might jump you for your Nikes or something stupid like that. Because Sarah. Okay, so to answer that question, I'll come back to you, Sarah. The great question on how I got involved in the UFO disclosure movement. But it seems to me the coordinates might have been reversed, like what some people are saying, from an Antarctica base, and they just reversed the coordinates and ended up there in that Miami Mall. And then the good forces are just using that as a positive target of opportunity to say, okay, here's an unveiling. Let's see how many humans wake up from that. Because the so-called Galactic Federation types, whether it's Galactic Federation of Worlds or of Light, apparently they do have something called the Prime Directive that they do try to abide by. And so that's what's keeping them from just stepping out into the limelight, landing on the White House lawn. But the more of us as humanity, as a group, as a collective, call for an unveiling of the disclosure, of ET technologies. Oh, there's Professor Bowers speaking of earlier. The more it enables the positive ETs to reveal themselves without violating the Prime Directive, because they figure we're less likely to freak the heck out down here on Earth and like beat each other over the head for gasoline and toilet paper.
Oh, toilet paper. Just like when we have a snowflake here in Georgia, people go and fight over milk and bread and toilet paper. Okay, so I can't imagine what full disclosure would do to some people, but I don't know. I think people are more ready for that. Okay, I think that they're. I mean, most of us are ready. I mean, we've been ready. Some of us. But
Look
yeah,
at,
we're in it for the full disclosure at this point.
look at what Robert Bauer is saying. Cliff High and the RV team and Dick Algeier and Smith are seeing something manifest in the skies July 10th to 20th with focus on the 15th. Our conference first day is July 15th, guys. And I'm told we're going to have ships in the skies monitoring us positively. So yeah, people are ready for sure, Jessica. I mean, geez, I call it full disclosure now. I should have called it full disclosure yesterday, but I don't
Yes.
think the sarcasm would play so
Yes.
well globally.
People would get
So
a little confused on that one. I like that. Well, let's go back to this question with from Sierra, who wants to know,
okay.
how did you get into the UFO disclosure movement, and where did your interest come from?
Thank you. Great question, Sarah. Thank you, Jessica, for reteeing that. Basically, I think I subscribe to the whole Dolores Cannon tradition of, I feel like so many of us involved in this movement are star seeds. and I consider myself a second wave. So like Penny Bradley and Carrie Cassidy and Miles Johnston will all be speaking, and Misha Johnston as well, who will be speaking at our conference, among others. I consider them to be first wave star seeds. They were the pioneers who brought the woo at first 40, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, and they got the arrows in the back and in the front. And you and I, Jessica, I think we're the second wave types with a lot of our peers, where now that they established the beachhead, the first waivers, here we are to kind of take over the beachhead,
Mhm.
kind of. And then or secure it, at least for our children and our grandchildren, the indigos and the crystals, crystal children, that Sherry Divband, among others, speaks to. Um, she'll also be presenting in 2 weeks. Um,
Can't be.
they're yeah, they're going to hold on and really change the earth once we've secured the beachhead that the first waivers first got onto, like stormed like Normandy. And
Yeah.
I think when I was really young, I knew that I wanted to help and change the earth or the world. When first time I saw a homeless person, and my parents like batting my fingers down, like don't point at that person, like and I was like, but what's wrong with that person out there? Can't we help them? And then normal society kind of took over, and or I just kind of fell asleep again. And then 9/11 happened, and I realized 2 planes, 3 buildings, free fall. It don't happen like that. I didn't get a biochem degree for nothing, people. And then I've always loved science fiction and X Files and stuff like that, and then realizing that that stuff is real. I think that happened when I went to Contact in the Desert last year, and I met some of these experiencers and saw some of the artifacts, and I got to see some remains of some of the skeletons from either Peru or Bolivia, of like the ET little bodies, and that convinced me. And then I co-organized the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour last summer, and off of that, it's kind of like the rest is history. And you know, understanding that we're not going to have everybody in houses and educated and fed and with great health care unless we have disclosure. And so that's really why I'm going, as hard for disclosure as I can. There you go.
Oh, oh yeah, and that's why I have been taking some pretty difficult targets from some people like Barry Littleton, who's going to be there, and Tyler from Journey to Truth has given me a few good ones. Arkeem Ra, who's going to be at the conference, has given me some really fantastic, literally out of this world targets to remote view, including jump gates to Mars and jump gates to Venus, underground bases and facilities with cloning facilities down there, cloning laboratories and things like that. So I'll be talking about that at your conference, actually. But Andrew here in the chat was
Mhm.
asking, he said, how about people's astral bodies being kept in deep underground military bases? Because he had a dream about that. What do you think about that? Because I'm sure we're going to be talking about deep underground military bases at your conference.
Yes. Okay. So when you speak to our presenters and people who are in our community who aren't necessarily going to be on our stages in 2 weeks, they speak a lot to alters and consciousness transfer. And so, in terms of people's astral bodies being kept in deep underground military bases, I think that's entirely possible. John Whitberg, for example, has just written a free ebook, The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes, about Project Ibis and how they would kidnap people who, in past life incarnations, were powerful beings that would be of interest to the military types in the here and now. And they use consciousness transfer and time travel technology to basically steal people's consciousnesses and then put them into these avatar bodies. I know it sounds wild. A lot of this is in the science fiction movies. There's a reason for that over and over. And so, yes, then they're fragmenting people. Absolutely. Because when you fragment people, it makes it much easier to enslave them. That's why a lot of the people who are mind controlled as children, now that they're getting older into their 40s and 50s and 60s, a lot of that fragmentation, it's breaking down. A lot of them are reintegrating. some of the altars that they had fractured off as soul fragments. So now we're getting not just psychological, but metaphysical in terms of the altars. Let's say an altar was fractured off and put into a clone body, sent into space, let's say the Mars program, for example, Mars Defense Force, and got killed up there. It's possible that that altar could be freed as a disembodied entity and could choose to reintegrate with the original human being down here on Earth who got mind control fractured in the first place, where that altar came from.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've just started learning about altars and things from meeting people like Arkeem Ra, and Daryl and Tony and all the guys that are that I've met through the programs that we're doing and all the conferences we've been at, and doing this remote viewing work too. And it's fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating. But it's also terrible because so many people have been part of these programs, these secret space programs, black programs, like secret stuff under MK Ultra mind control, and a lot of abuse, ritualistic abuse, and people are just kind of waking up to it. A lot of people have been part of these programs and were never aware of it until something triggered a memory in them, right, Brian?
Yeah, in terms of the memories, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of unpleasantness involved in the mind control, especially when you get into the ritualistic abuse aspects of it. That obviously is particularly nasty. Um, and so I know that the mainstream, they kind of find it they find it hard enough to take in and process when you get into the abuse aspects and the little people that it's happening to. But once you throw in time travel and secret space programs and jump gates to Mars, now the girl in her gong, she's mentioning blue beam technology. That
Oh, yeah.
brings us back to the other side. The reason why they're pushing the alien invasion thing is because as the Illuminati cabal derp state types are losing the plot and they're losing their grasp, more and more people, the truth movement, someone mentioned, we can call it that, sure, are waking up, not a woke waking up with Chico type infected woke, but more of a they're awakening to the reality of who we are, and um, what can be as opposed to what is right now. um, as more of that happens, they are thinking about using holographic blue beam projection technology to simulate a UFO ET invasion while also using directed energy weapons and 5G type weapon technology to use that as an excuse to rally the masses under a sort of martial law and then put us under their New World Order, World Economic Forum, Klaus, anal Schwab wet dream, which ain't going to happen, people, not in this timeline.
No, we're working against that. We're gonna try not let that ever happen. But yeah, we keep our heads on a swivel. Okay, our head, we each only have one head. Okay, so most of us, not everybody. Okay, anyway, um, so yeah, we keep our head on the swivel. Every time I end a show, I always tell everybody to stay safe, lock your doors. Keep your head on a swivel because we're living in such crazy times right now, and the world is so just kind of all over the place, and all the information. We're in an information war. Okay, it's like spiritual warfare, information warfare, all sorts of warfare, physical warfare is going on too. But people come here to get away. Like they watch our shows to kind of tune out of that a little bit, or to kind of see what else is going on in the world. And so that's why I like to talk about today. To me, this is very important, what we're doing right here, and what we're talking about, what you're doing, Brian, and bringing people together at an actual conference where you get to meet face to face with people, because really we are just trying to escape this crazy reality we're living in right now. But I like to empower people. Okay, I like to empower people by giving them the information that I have, letting everybody make their own decisions about it, and just spreading the truth out there as I know it. Okay, and I think that's the best thing that we can do right now, and have some fun doing it. And I think that's
It's
what
all
we do good. We do well.
so the truth is indeed stranger than fiction. And in revealing like the truth to people, we're broadening the world. It's, if anything, it's escaping the 3D lamestream matrix reality into the real reality, which is so much better and bigger and more beautiful than what we've been led to believe. Like, we come from monkeys, and the dinosaurs are killed by a big meteor. All that, um is I'm going to go out on a limb and say, not for this community, say the earth is round, people, space is real, ETs are real, interdimensionals are real, inner earth is real. It's not an Easter egg like some of the debunkers claim. It's more like Swiss cheese with voids and gaps in it, apparently. Yeah,
Yeah,
and being empowered by this information, absolutely. So why do people
for
think that
sure.
the population cannot handle disclosure when supposedly there have been contact with ETs since early civilization and no one freaked out then? Great question, Sierra. So what I would say, and I'm not going to say that I am a huge believer in this. I'm going to take more of the apologist, um, lamestream advocate. Okay, for them, you have to understand that we live in modern day society where we have a lot of advanced technology and know-how that goes into maintaining these power plants, and our transportation networks and refining the oil and all the food networks. And if that went down catastrophically, they say that, let's say our power grids went down for like 2 weeks straight, that would be really, really hugely bad. Okay,
Well,
so uh, on the benevolent side of things, right? They don't want to have what we call catastrophic, huge, immediate disclosure because they don't want society to freak out so badly that there's a mass casualty event or period of time. On the quote unquote bad guys side, they don't want disclosure because with disclosure, not only do we now get clued into all the great energy, free energy, and medical beds, and time travel, and anti gravity, but we also get clued into the who and what and when and where and why of people who are doing ritual abuse, people who are building deep underground military bases so that they can push a transhumanism agenda and have a nice place to hide while it's nasty here on the surface for a decade or so. And so those are both reasons and two different sides for why they 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 would say, okay, we're not yet ready for disclosure. And then that's where we come in. The more work that we do, the better organized, the more coherent and cogent and united without mudslinging at each other and suing each other for intellectual property rights. The more organically, if you will, that the truth comes out and the people can demand the truth. And when the truth comes out, we don't have freakouts and food riots and Soylent Green power shutdowns and stuff like that.
mhm.
So I hope that answers your question.
Speaking of power shutdowns, okay, so you and I are both preppers. We are both survivalists. Okay, we know how to take care of ourselves if need be. Okay, and in a case of an emergency like that, and this entire weekend, other than being at the conference yesterday, I've been getting ready for an off-grid survivalist week. Okay, where I'm going to have no power, no AC. It's going to be over 100 degrees every day and hot and maybe raining. I don't know. It's going to be miserable. Okay, but it's going to be fun. And it's something that I can't wait to do. And I will come back. I'm sure I'll have some stories. We're looking for Dogman this week. Okay, and so yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's stupid. Okay, I know, but that's what I do. Okay, and whatever happens out there, I can promise you, when and if I make it back, I will make it back this week. I will be able to talk about it. Okay, and I will be disclosing with the audience things that we do. Not going to be with my normal team. I'm going out with another team called Cryptid Warfare, and it's something that I live for. I love this stuff. Okay, I love it. And hopefully we will have some contact with some dogmen or maybe even some Bigfoots out there. Um,
Well, and I wanted to ask you, Jessica, because at what point are you like, this is a Dogman research field trip as opposed to a Bigfoot or fairy people or portal? Because with especially with your remote viewing capability, and I suspect, then your third eye might be more open to be able to perceive like Bigfoot when they're around us, like when we're at Camp Hero, things
Mhm.
like that, for the Montauk Adventure Tour. Um, it's kind of like you could be on a trip and probably see any or all of those on the same
Yep.
trip, even though you went specifically with a group to find Dogman in this case.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's a great question because uh, this place is known for Bigfoot activity. Families of Bigfoot have been spotted there together. But there's also Dogman sightings. There are also Dogman sightings and reports. Well, one of the guys that's going with us, who I have done some research with in the past, he and his I think it was his son and his dad had gone out to this exact location recently, and were surrounded by what they believe were dogmen all night, and they didn't know if they were going to survive the night
So
when they
then,
were
do you
out there.
think is it possible that this might be an area where there's a portal or like high magnetic or other anomalies where Bigfoot are appearing, and then maybe say the U.S. deep state military government might have sent in dogmen to hunt down Bigfoot, or like why is there such a crossover and intersection in this one
Yeah.
region?
Well, first of all, this place we're going to be hiking in for several miles just to get to where we're going on foot. So I'm taking everything I have with me on my back and my front. I'm like going to be so loaded down. But yeah, we're going to be bivouacking. If you guys know, I don't know if you know what bivouacking is. Okay, but I've got like a one woman tent. Okay, I've got a hammock. I could be a Bigfoot burrito. Okay, but just very minimal kind of stuff we're taking out there. Um, it is on government property. It's a national park.
Oh, nice.
Okay, it's a national park. So of course, with the history of us doing shows and research, shows on and research in the national parks, the state parks, um, there's a high concentration of cryptids in all of these national parks. There's also high concentration of missing people. Okay, and like I showed at the conference yesterday that I spoke at, there are maps of the deep underground military bases, maps of the Bigfoot sightings, maps of the UFO sightings, maps of the cave systems. They all line up if you put them on top of each other. If you superimpose all of them like on top of each other, it's the same map. Okay, it's like the same concentration, the same densities in the same areas for all of those. So there's a correlation, Brian. So you can pretty much guarantee. I can't give the location away where I'm going exactly. Okay, especially not until after we go, if I can then. But it's somewhere. It is at a national park. Okay, it's a national park, but we're going super deep, deep, deep in it. Okay, deep, deep in it.
Let's talk about that. How these are all national park lands. It's
Yeah.
almost like the Smithsonian types got together with the U.S. government types, and then kind of off limited a lot of these areas. And then even within the national parks, they have areas that you can't go into, like in, for example, the Grand Canyon, where people
Mm-hmm.
say there's a lot of like Egyptian type artifacts in a certain region and that's what do you know? It's closed off within the national park.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I do a lot of research within state parks and national parks, and you just driving down forest roads and stuff. I mean, there's logging roads and wildlife management areas, the WMAs. There's just a lot of, for whatever reason, there's a lot of Bigfoot activity there. Okay, so a lot of people theorize that they are protected there. Okay, like our government knows that they're there, and they were actually, those parks were set up there to protect the populations of them. Okay, so that's one theory. But then we've got places like the land between the lakes where there's a lot of dogman activity there, and some pretty terrible stories of people being mauled to death there in that park, and it being covered up. So yeah, I will be taking my own advice. I will be keeping my head on a swivel, okay, while I'm out there, and I'm with some people that are we'll protect each other to the best we can as well. But generally, I'm going out there to observe. Okay, not just I'm not going to try to stir anything up. Okay, But in the process, we probably will, because one of the guys who's going with us, he has been there, and he said it was a terrifying experience for him. So we'll see. We'll see.
It
But
was terrifying because the last time it was there, something went bump in the night.
It wasn't just a bump in the night. He says it and I would like to bring him on my show. Okay, so after this trip, I'll probably bring him on. He said that they turned in for the night. They weren't expecting to have this experience, of course, but they knew that this area was ripe with cryptid activity, and that's part of the reason they went, just to see, just to scout it. We call it scouting. Okay, and they went to go scout, and at some point in the middle of the night, they started hearing noises. Something started. It wasn't just one, or several bipedal beings circling the camp all night, and he said that it was pretty terrifying, where they couldn't leave because they were so far from where they had left their vehicle, and it was dark, and they just sat back to back, waiting to be something to jump out at them. He said they didn't sleep at all that night. They waited for the sun to come up until they got out of there. And I think they said that they didn't believe they may not make it through the night, because they thought they were about to be attacked by whatever that was.
So as a security precaution, have you tried to do anything like remote view ahead to see what that might be? Or maybe keep your eyes open for a portal. Might be there's a portal opening somewhere at night,
Oh, yeah.
And high
We're on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're on it. There's usually, we have encountered portals with my team, at least two instances of portals. And so we have to take precaution, but see, we have protocol. Okay. Most field researchers, when you're out there doing the real research like this, you have to have a protocol. Okay. You have to, there are certain things that we go by, like rules that we go by, to where we're not going to be putting ourselves in danger. We're never going to be alone out there. We're going out as a team. Okay. So, yeah, we have safety precautions, let's just say.
And then do you ever try to time it with a moon, like a new moon or a full moon? Because it seems
you know what? Yes. Yeah. This week we're going because I think the guys are off work because it's the holiday. So that's why we're going in 150-degree weather. Okay. But yeah, it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot. But yeah, sweating's good for you. So, okay, so what I wanted to talk about before we go tonight, though, is the connection with Dogman and potentially the secret space program, because I had the head of the North American Dogman project join me on my show a couple of times last year, and he was telling me about reports that he had gotten of dogmen coming out of UFOs, like UFOs landing, and they're dog-headed men basically coming out of these things. Also, he was telling me reports of people seeing like upright, two-legged, like the dogs are like bipedal, wearing soldier uniforms, like army military uniforms and stuff. I mean, these are reports. He takes them very seriously, and so do I. And
is he seeing those at the same time, or is that two separate types of dogman sightings?
Separate.
The dogmen, then military gear, and then dog-headed type beings coming out of UFOs, but those might be like Syrians, like not from Syria, the country on the globe of Earth, but Sirius, the star constellation. That's apparently like the Lyrans and the Syrians. You've got an ET race apparently known as the Irma. They're like the lion-looking people, and so this might be like the dog star Sirius. Or Canis Major, Canis Minor might be where the ET dogmen are from. And then you've got the dogmen breeding program with the US type underground military programs, and that might be where they're in uniform. And it's kind of like people can see both and get really confused as to like what's going on here.
Yeah, it could be. There's so many questions surrounding the dogman phenomenon, and we look at maps from the old world maps that have dog-headed communities of dog-headed people, and but they also have dragons and unicorns and blemmies and all sorts of other creatures that we're told were just mythological creatures. They never existed. But I think otherwise. I think that they probably did exist. And the fact that we're seeing dog-headed, and I don't believe these are dog-headed men that we're seeing today. I think that we are seeing werewolves. Some people are, and I think some people are seeing dogmen, okay, which are actually like a full-bodied dog, okay, almost like a human torso. I know it sounds really odd, right? But we live in a strange world, though, and a lot
We
of
live in a
strange
strange.
creatures.
Well, not only do we live in a strange world, we talk about, like, let's say, dragons and unicorns and blemmies, for example. I would argue that not only did they exist, I'd say they do exist. They don't necessarily exist here on Earth because many of them were probably hunted down and killed off, and then the rest went into hiding and whatnot and have been hidden away. Um, but I'd say that a lot of that stuff is going to be unveiled and come back again. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Anubis might have been one of these dog-headed type ETs, for example.
Oh,
John Whitberg, that incarnation, he said in the past was eternal as Sobek, the Egyptian reptilian god of the Nile. And so it's entirely possible that a lot of these beings who are worshipped in, say, ancient Egypt or Babylon, they might have been just powerful extraterrestrial beings that, humanity unknowingly worshipped as gods when they were anything but.
oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of interesting chimera like entities too. That's something else that comes up in my data quite a bit are chimeras. And that's something that I kind of bonded with some of the secret space program people, like the survivors of the secret space program over, including, Daryl James, who was
Mhm.
telling me about a spider human that he encountered. And I've heard about this spider human chimera from several people, not just him. So there's a lot of strange experiments going on in some of these facilities, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of just like Wayland Yutani Corporation in the Alien series. Um, there's, I think, a lot of truth to that. These, unfortunately, a lot of the more nefarious types, they want to figure out how to weaponize everything that they can. And so the genetic experimentation and hybridization is exactly right up that alley. Oh, there you go. Hey, Matthew. So, well, then, Matthew, you should definitely speak with John Whitberg. I think you guys have a lot to speak with there. And Matthew Mornian of rememberyourmission.com, he's going to be presenting on our main stage as well, coming up in 2 weeks in Florida. So, bring your bathing suit, bring your natural sunscreen, bring your skim board, and we're gonna have fun at the beach.
Heck yeah. I can't wait to see Matthew again and your lovely wife as well. So we're gonna have a really good time down there. It's always fun hanging out with like-minded people and swapping stories, our encounters. I mean, it really, I'm not going to say it put me on a different trajectory when I started meeting the secret space program guys and ladies as well too, but it was just confirming what a lot of my data was saying, and from some of those targets that I was doing. And I think some of their stories were confirmed by my blind targets, so we were just swapping ideas and the data and stuff. And it really opened me up to a whole new world. And it confirmed that my data was pretty on point too,
I mean, it
which is
gets
good.
so wild that Christy Campbell, I want to give her a shout out. Part of her testimony is, when she was told or made to call George H.W. Bush father, basically she was assigned to him as one of his slave assassins, and that alter clone body or whatever she was in under his command, it was a werewolf type body. And so she was, apparently he was rewarded, George Bush, H.W. Bush, by getting control of Christie in these programs back in the day. And hi Tim Othman. Hey Tim, how you doing, brother?
Hey, yeah, wow. I mean, that's something that people ask me a lot, is like, what are the origins of the werewolves and the dogmen and things like that. And I mean, the secret space program. Okay, so that's something that I don't know if it was Tony Rodriguez had told me. I think it was him that said that he had encountered or had been in a spacecraft with dog-headed soldiers. I think I'm pretty sure he said that at some point when he was in the secret space program, he encountered dog-headed, you know, I guess they were like, I want to say aliens, for lack of a better term, some kind of extraterrestrial, right?
Yeah, so part of it is that reality is much more elastic and changeable and malleable than we have been taught to believe. And so this is why a lot of these ETs and interdimensional beings, they can shapeshift. It's because they're not just confined to this 3D time space that we kind of at this vibrational density seem to be confined to for the most part. And so if you have the ability to access higher density consciousness, then you can also affect your material reality to the point where that's where you get the serpent type beings where they're shape shifting when they're doing their rituals. Or you could have like the skinwalkers of Navajo tradition where they kill an animal and then they can try to shape shift into that animal form. And that's, I think, the basis of magic is starting to get into quantum physics and higher densities and dimensions of consciousness. So that's kind of like an explanation, if you will. That's as sciencey as I'm going to get on this woo for you guys tonight. I'll save it for the next time to try to top that. And but that's in terms of the origins. If you're dealing with it from a dimensional and density level, well, then that's been around forever. Okay.
Uh,
And then how long has like our militaries or the secret programs or the royal families been involved? Probably forever.
oh my gosh, Brian, you just sparked a memory. I had a video sent to me this morning. I think it was yesterday, but I saw it this morning by my good friend Javier, Cryptid 559. He sent me something that he had mentioned a while back, and it was a shapeshifter. Okay, and I did a show last night where my guest is a good friend of mine who's one of my research buddies. He has a story about his uncle running from the cops and ran outside behind a tree, and what came out the other side of the tree was a dog, and it ran off into the woods. So we had a good conversation about shapeshifters last night, and Javier sent me a video of a very famous singer shapeshifting, and it looked like he was shapeshifting into a reptilian. um, that that happens quite a bit from what I hear, right? But this was Elvis Presley. Okay, it was
Oh,
Elvis. It was just so odd. I'm looking at this like, well, maybe it was just the pixels in the video or something. I don't know. But his handlers, whoever was with him, visibly were trying to cover it up and put something over his eyes, like a handkerchief to cover it, because he was on camera being filmed. Now we hear that happens a lot. Are we imagining things, or are there really like reptilian shapeshifters?
no, we're not imagining things. I suspect that what's happening, especially in Hollywood in the music industry, first of all, Hollywood, that's an occult origin. That's what you make magic wands out of for the pagans and the druids back in the day, was Hollywood. And I don't want to diss pagans and druids in general. I want to diss the Hollywood satanic types who that's the Illuminati's way of trying to mind control the masses through culture and TV and music, whereas you have the military and political basis would be more Washington D.C. and then more of like the kind of like the royal power and bloodline basis would have been London, okay, and also another financial center. And so you get a lot of these testimonies from Hollywood actors and actresses and musicians who talk about making these deals with entities to basically give themselves access to talent and wealth and fame and beauty and fortune, right? And so I think that that shape-shifting transformation on stage is very much possible because if they're in the energy of performing, and that is a form of ritual, and then like their eyes shapeshift a little bit, and they've made deals with demonic reptilian type entities, and then their eyes go slit like, would that surprise me at all? No, not one bit. Let's see. Brenda's saying she watched the Federal Forest Ranger up in Water Canyon. Okay, here in Winnemucca, shapeshift last summer. Yeah, so it's entirely possible. And then I'm also going to say this now as we move forward in what a lot of us term the ascension. Okay, and maybe we're increasing in our vibrational density. Um, where the veil is going to be more and more lifted. It's going to be only more and more commonplace, people, where we're seeing UFOs and Bigfoot and shadow people and reptilians and whatnot. So, buckle up, folks.
Buckle up, buttercups. That's what I
Yeah.
always say. Buckle up, buttercups, because we are in for a wild ride. I just made a typo. Let's see here. I'm about to pull this up if my computer will work. Brian, tell everybody about your conference. We have run out of time. We have more questions in the audience. We're going to have to bring you back on soon, okay? And we'll talk some more about disclosure and these pesky reptilian shapeshifters. But for now, tell the audience about your conference and what you have coming up.
Yeah, please go to fulldisclosuremovement.org, and it's in 2 weeks. We've got about 40 presenters now on 2 stages. We're going to have night vision UFO CE5 group gatherings on the beach, because the Serrata Beach Resort is right there on St. Pete Beach. So you walk out of the resort, there's a pool, there's a beach, there's a water. You can call to the dolphins and the UFOs. We've got about 80% are hard disclosure people and 20% are on the ascension side of things. As we go, I like to have more and more ascension as well as the disclosure. I'm really proud of this conference. It's only our first one, and it's already looking to be huge. Yeah, and that's an earlier poster. We have to make an updated one and add about 10 more presenters to that. And then we're also going to have live music and dancing and hanging out on the beach during the daytime as well, and at the pool. A lot of not just socializing, but networking and organizing, and no gatekeeping, no limited hangouts. We want full disclosure, or as Professor Robert Bauer says, full exposure now.
Full exposure. Yes, yeah, I can hear y'all with your dirty minds out there. Watch out now. We're talking about full disclosure, and that's what we love to do. That's what we do, and I started doing it inadvertently. Okay, but that's what I do now. So, Brian, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for inviting me to speak at your conference. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be there. So it's going to be great. I just have to make it through this Dogman excursion that I'm going on.
Yes,
And then
be
I'll be
safe
there. Yeah.
and have fun, Jessica. And in the meantime, all I can say is, woo! Space Out Radio crew.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We bring the woo. Okay. Me and Dave and Rob G. We're the conductors of the woo train over here. So, Brian, thank you so much. We're gonna bring that woo train down to Florida next month. Okay. Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in Florida. All right, y'all. Thanks, Brian. Okay, y'all. What a great show tonight. I love having Brian here. It's so awesome. Listen, I do have a discount code for those tickets. I forgot to pull it up tonight. It's on my social media. You guys go over to my Instagram page and to my Facebook page, The Cryptid Huntress, and Jessica, The Cryptid Huntress on Facebook. And you can find my discount codes. I'll put them back up tonight so you guys can get those. And please come join us over there in Florida, July the 18th. 15th through the 18th. All right. Well, y'all come see me this week. Hopefully I'll be back by Wednesday, but definitely will be here on Thursday on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress. And you guys have a wonderful week. Okay. Thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. And I will see you guys next time. Y'all be safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. And I'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.